Hey guys, Omni here. So we're going to be checking out New Rockstar's breakdown of the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer that we got over at San Diego Comic-Con over the weekend. Now, I know I'd said like when I reacted to this trailer that I had planned on doing like a little stream or whatever, that was kind of what I was going to do, and things just kind of happened. I wasn't able to get around to it, but I'm going to try to do that later this week, and we'll just kind of do a round table where I just bullet point go through everything that Comic-Con revealed both Friday and Saturday as far as the Marvel stuff like that, because there's just a lot to unpack. So yeah, I don't think that's going to replace our normal whining with Omni or anything like that, but we'll just have to play it by ear, guys. I'm sorry about that, but with that all said, let's go ahead and pop into New Rockstar's breakdown. Guys, if you're not subscribed to New Rockstars, please do so. These guys put in a lot of work to do these fantastic, entertaining breakdowns of all things Marvel, Star Wars, and even DC every now and then whenever there's something to actually check out. But here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the trailer for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which leaves us with tears and with questions. Let's break down this trailer frame by frame for the visual details you might have missed, translations of every bit of Wakanda text that we see on screen, and just appreciation for the amazing production design and the other deeper layers of meaning that you might have overlooked. Let's get started.
Oh, woman, no cry. No, woman, no cry.
The song is so good, man.
The trailer opens with No Woman, No Cry by Bob Marley and the Wailers, but here covered by Nigerian singer Tems. Bob Marley's lyrics are often misinterpreted as, if you have no woman, there's nothing to make you cry, but that's not the truth. It's not a song for men, it's really a song for women. It means, woman, don't cry. Wailers bassist Aston Barrett in 2012 explained that the song is really about the strength of women and encouragement to be like a lion, with or without a man. And Barrett encouraging women to rise up as lions applies to the women of this movie, Nakia, Shuri, Ramonda, Okoye, Aneka, and Riri Williams, that despite their tears, they can still be strong feline warriors in their own right. Nakia stands on a beach with a Mayan pyramid behind her. These types of pyramids and ruins can be found throughout Mexico along the Yucatan Peninsula.
I will just say, like, I think like in the trailer, I've seen some other reactions to it. I think with just everything that was being dropped, man, I was just so lost in the hype that I was just like, rode it. But the more I watched this trailer quite a few times since that initial reaction, and it just gets more and more emotional once you kind of let everything sink in. I think I was still riding pretty high on all of the reveals and announcements and all that stuff, and just even being able to see this film. The subsequent watches, man, the reality sinks in more and more every time, especially with the way this film is kind of seemingly, in a way, its own wake and memorial to Chadwick and T'Challa's legacy. Yeah, man, it's definitely going to be a very different feeling Marvel movie when we get into it. We might see a lot of similar things, but like at the end of the day, I think this is going to have, much like the very first film, have a very different but strong cultural moving behind it. We'll just have to wait and find out, though.
Peninsula and the Atlanteans in this film are going to be connected to ancient Mayan culture. Namor actor Tenoch Huerta told Vice that he had to learn a language for this movie that was based on ancient Mayan. We'll talk more about how that affects the plot of this movie, but
damn,
let's move
okay.
on.
Don't shed no tear. No woman, no cry.
Sorry. I just saw Nope earlier this week, and I was watching an interview with Keke Palmer where she did an Angela Bassett impression, and my God, just seeing Angela Bassett right now, sorry to ruin the tone just immediately after what we were just talking about, but oh my God, it's so spot on. If you haven't seen that clip, check it out.
Good friends we have.
I've seen a lot of Angela Bassett in my days, and it's pretty on point.
Ramonda sits upon the Wakandan throne, flanked by the Dora Milaje, and the floor of this room that she shares with the other tribe elders is the exposed red clay floor of Mount Pashenga. This throne itself bears the Wakandan letters that translate to wisdom and loyalty. And notice how Ramonda appears to have a chunk of vibranium ore on her armrest. Maybe the conflict in this movie has to do with vibranium as a natural resource that is being plundered, both from the Wakandans and from the Atlanteans. To the left, in blue and purple, is Dorothy Steele as the elder of the merchant merchant tribe returning from the 2018 film. Dorothy Steele passed away at age 95 in October 2021 after completing her work.
I mean, 95, man.
Wakanda citizens dance in white
Good
clothes.
job.
White is what Wakandans wear when they are in mourning. Ramonda and Shuri were both wearing white to mourn T'Chaka's death at the beginning of the 2018 film.
A comfort for your loss.
Thank you, Nakia.
Now Wakanda celebrates the life of T'Challa. Shuri grieves in a procession with her mother Ramonda over the Marvel Studios logo that's also in white, led by the Dora Milaje, who in this very rare occasion trade out their red uniforms for these white robes. So yes, this film will address Chadwick Boseman's death by showing the death of T'Challa. How the character has died remains unclear. Some have wondered if this film might be set during the blip. Maybe they could be mourning T'Challa's dusting, but that is not possible because Shuri was among the dusted according to Avengers Endgame. And
I've heard that theory as well, so yeah, I forgot about that. So yeah.
With every other Phase 4 title, aside from a couple flashbacks, is set definitively after the blip. I just hope that they don't make the actual circumstances of his death a kind of plot point to the movie. Like, this movie does not have to be a conspiratorial mystery to solve how T'Challa died, but rather a story
just
about
natural
what people do
causes.
after in his absence. Now, the gate
I
that
guess
they're
we'll
headed
just have to
toward has a
find out, of
statue
course.
Bashenga. Bashenga was the first Black Panther and Wakandan king who united the tribes of Wakanda and the one who first consumed the heart-shaped herb to come into communion with Bast. Here you can actually see Bast sitting at Bashenga's feet. But then notice the figure to the right. That is a female figure. Could it be Bashenga's wife, his sister, his daughter, his mother? There is another feline sitting at her feet, which I believe to be Sekhmet. Bast is derived from Bastet, the Egyptian feline goddess, the more peaceful of the pairing that also includes the more aggressive feline deity of Sekhmet. T'Challa actually mentioned both of these in Civil War.
In my culture, death is not the end. It's more of a stepping off point. You reach out with both hands and Bast and Sekhmet. They lead you into the green veldt where you can run forever.
And by green veldt, I think we all assumed that that was the ancestral plane, but this green garden may actually be the green veldt on this side of the plane, the one that leads to the ancestral plane. This appears to be the Royal Cemetery, aka the necropolis of Wakanda. So as the past couple titles of the MCU start to explore how certain superheroes are avatars of deities, and how those deities are actually represented in the Marvel Universe and Omnipotent City in Thor: Love and Thunder, including someone who we thought was Bast, and a white-furred feline figure that I think might be Sekhmet, this film may now expand this kind of mythology to include both the Black Panther and Bast and an ancestral female companion empowered by Sekhmet. Moving on.
That would be neat. That'd be one way to tie everything back in to what we've been seeing so far.
There's another
This
angle
cover's
of the
so
throne room
good,
showing
though.
Dora Milaje in formation, and now the columns have writing on them. We can see in power, then T'Challa, then our hero, and honor forever. And we know from some set photos that the full transcription of this phrase is rest in power, King T'Challa, our hero, 'twas an honor, Wakanda forever. And notice how each platform represents a different part of Wakanda. We actually saw these platforms and the art behind them in the 2018 film. On the left, the column at the guard's feet reads Golden City, that is the name of the central metropolis of Wakanda. The next one, King's Guard, that represents the Dora Milaje. Next one, River Tribe, that is the Green Cloak Tribe from Warrior Falls, the tribe Nakia comes from. And the fourth one, Mining Tribe, that is the Red Cloak Tribe that we saw at Warrior Falls. And behind each of these are tableau symbols in red clay, much like the floor of this throne room. The one on the far left is a large tree with expansive branches and equally expansive roots, likely the panther tree that we see in the ancestral plane, but you may also be reminded of the Asgardian Yggdrasil World's Tree. It's just always interesting when the MCU's disparate mythologies parallel each other in little ways like this. Then Ramonda, now in black, stands on the shoreline that we think Nakia is on, and notice some gray hairs are visible under her headpiece. She looks magnificent, but even she cannot hide the toll that her life and losses have taken on her. Moving on.
So dry your tears, I said.
Here we see the birth of Namor. Namor is Marvel's first mutant, publication date-wise.
Yep.
And now that the MCU has finally said the word mutation in the context of Kamala Khan, it's likely that they're gonna call Namor a mutant in this movie as well. Namor is the mutant son born to the Atlantean princess of Fen and a human captain of the Lemurian Star, which kind of got referenced in Winter Soldier.
Target is a mobile satellite launch platform, the Lemurian Star.
Yeah, Lumerian Star, Lemurian Star, Potato Topato. Now, while DC's Aquaman first appeared in 1941, Namor actually precedes him, joining Captain America in the android form of the Human Torch in 1939. These three were the first real Marvel superheroes. Over the years, Namor has been known as really an anti-hero who seeks vengeance against surface dwellers, and in more recent comics has had a history of bad blood with Wakanda and T'Challa.
He's got more in common with
a few times in the MCU.
there's a lot of that paralleling that went into the creation of Aquaman, but I think I think he more so lines up with Orm more so than Arthur. But that lines up in the long run, though. But yeah, he's one of the. There's always a trade-off, man. Like DC's inspired some people that Marvel would later kind of incorporate, and vice versa. But yeah, Namor, beat him by what was it, 2 years? Yeah, man.
In Iron Man
I'm
2,
curious
the
to see
world
how they
map
pull
that
this
gave us
off.
Our first sighting of Wakanda in the MCU also included a site in the South Atlantic Ocean. And then Endgame had that one line about the underwater earthquakes.
Yeah.
Reading on those tremors?
It was a mild subduction under the African plate.
How are we handling it?
It's an earthquake under the ocean. We handle it by not handling it.
And now we actually get to visit Atlantis and meet these people. It's interesting how this mother gives birth in shallow water. You can see the surface right above her head. All the Atlanteans that we see are blue-skinned, as Namor's mother was in the comics, but here, his mother may be human, thus the shallow water. Just a human who might have fallen in love with an Atlantean father, and that's why Namor isn't blue. Maybe his skin is a reflection of his mutation. Let's move on.
I love the aesthetic, too, though, that they went with. Especially that throne we get in a shot with and here in a little
In this
bit
shot,
with the
adult Namor turns from a large orb of light underwater. What
The
is
giant,
this? I'm wondering
like,
if this could be an underwater
megalodon
explosion that
jaw.
Namor's just turning away from in slow motion. Maybe one of those mild subductions that Okoye brushed off, but was actually the surface dwellers mining away at Namor's home. Namor wears a ceremonial Mayan headpiece with a jaguar head, making Namor parallel to the Black Panther, but with the ferocious feline of Central America. A helicopter approaches a human research vessel, but this isn't a purely scientific mission because a guard is holding a freaking machine gun, and this dive is occurring at night. If you want to see stuff under the ocean, why wouldn't you just go during the day? Yeah, this is not a harmless academic trip, my friends. This actually might be the human intervention that aggravates Atlantis and puts Wakanda in an awkward situation, as Wakanda, unlike Atlantis, opened up to the world community, and thus, from the Atlanteans' point of view, might have made themselves culpable every time the humans do something stupid. Moving on.
dude.
Okay, now a different shot that I don't think is part of that research vessel. Here, we see some armed, uniformed soldiers invading a Wakandan lab, forcing a scientist to open a door, and then holding other scientists at gunpoint beside these bubbling water columns. This could be an off-campus lab where, I don't know, maybe some Navy SEALs were sent to take everything the Wakandans know about Atlantis. Or maybe they're just there to steal their vibranium. Actually, later in the trailer, we do see the Dora Milaje coming to these scientists' aid. The fact that a conflict, though, is happening means that international relations are probably going to shit. Then this insane shot where sure
I kind of recall, like, I can't remember where, like, but like it might have been in one of the films, it might have been in one of the shows, but like every now and then there's like news reports and stuff like that of things going on. I have to recall something like one of those like scrollaways mentioning something about unrest in a Wakanda, or like tensions rise with Wakanda or something like that on one of them.
he stands on the red clay floor with the throne as fire climbs the columns, but a room around this floods. Later shots in the trailer showed this room flooding, and that is shocking because, again, this room is atop Mount Bashenga. So for water to reach that high, it must have been an insanely tall tidal wave. And indeed, as we see throughout the trailer, all of Wakanda is going to flood. This movie looks like it's going to closely adapt the 2012 Avengers vs. X-Men comic storyline, in which, and it's kind of crazy, just go with me on this, the Phoenix Force takes 5 hosts, one of them Namor, and tracks down the Avengers to Wakanda, and then uses Namor's amplified powers to flood the entire nation of Wakanda, killing countless innocents. So I assume in this movie, the Atlanteans will flood Wakanda as a kind of final escalation, maybe a measure of last resort that begins with
that shot right there with the jaw.
But is it gonna be Namor who floods Wakanda, or one of the other Atlanteans that he doesn't necessarily agree with the extremity of?
God. Dude, I can't wait, man.
Shuri in the lab greets Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, a brilliant MIT student and engineer played by Dominique Thorne. And she's gonna be getting her own Disney Plus series in fall 2023. Looks like Shuri might be doing some recruiting of great minds from Tony Stark's alma mater. Now, Letitia Wright as an actress is just very thin, but notice as she approaches Dominique Thorne, she has definitely put on a bit of mass in her shoulders. I only bring this up because the final shot of this trailer is just gonna force us to pay close attention to all of these actors' physiques. And right as Shuri and Riri slap hands, Tim's repetition of everything gonna be all right transitions seamlessly into Kendrick Lamar's All Right. Like many Bob Marley songs, Lamar's All Right became a protest anthem. He conceived this track while visiting South Africa's Robben Island to see the cell where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, and he wrote these lyrics with an intent to heal. Thereafter, this song became a key song for the BLM movement, both to grieve, but also to fight through that grief and find a way to express joy and to keep one's head up. And I love how both of these songs in this trailer work together to try to comfort us, to try to keep us strong. Let's move on.
I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and my entire family is gone.
Okay, an interesting flashback shows this ranch house on fire, and then there's like an old-timey carriage, someone in an old-timey attire dead out front, as a young Namor gazes up at this fire with 4 blue-skinned Atlanteans. I assume this is part of Namor's origin story, maybe the death of one of his parents, and the fact that this seems to be set so far in the past might mean that they give Namor a similar origin that he had in the comics. He could just be very old, someone who ages very slowly. I like how the Atlanteans wear these breathing masks over their faces, but presumably to circulate water into their mouths, since they might not be able to breathe air. But Namor doesn't have to wear one because he is part human. But then we have this match cut of adult Namor meeting the Atlanteans on a different shore. This, if you look at the structures in the background, is Wakanda. Now, Wakanda seemed to be in the middle of the African continent, but it did border a body of water. And if you look later on in this trailer, on the same beachfront, Namor and the others face fire from a Wakandan aircraft as M'Baku leaps at them from a boat. But interesting how in that shot, the other Atlanteans dive back in the water, but Namor doesn't move. Does he have some kind of divine protection as the avatar of a Mayan god? We return to the mountain kingdom of the Jabari tribe of M'Baku. Notice the snow-covered gorilla statue. This may be where the Wakandans have to flee to after the flooding, since it's higher ground. Ramonda addresses the UN, and after that skirmish with the commandos and the Wakandan scientists, I'm wondering if she's now declaring that Wakanda is actually turning away from the world community, a reversal of her son's address in the 2018 film. And then we get another shot of T'Challa's funeral ceremony, showing his face on a billboard with the Wakandan letters translating to "The Panther King forever lives in us and rests," with an unseen "with," the, and the last word is blocked out, but I see an ES, and based on the spacing, I think it's ancestors. So the Panther King forever lives in us and rests with the ancestors. Then there's the yellow building below that is selling Wakandan something. Can't really make it out. Let's move on.
Have I not given everything?
So the emotional speech given by Ramonda that I thought was in the UN is actually being delivered in the Wakandan throne room, perhaps to the Atlantean invaders who are now demanding more from her. And she says, "My entire family is gone." So T'Chaka and T'Challa are gone, but what about Shuri? I would be really surprised if Shuri dies in this movie, but she may not be actually dead. She might just be in the ancestral plane, and Ramonda just thinks she's dead. For Shuri to access the ancestral plane, she would have to find a way to synthetically regrow the heart-shaped herb. The ancestral plane could be where she encounters her father T'Chaka, her brother T'Challa, maybe in the form of a silent panther sitting in the tree. But also in the ancestral plane, my friends, is likely her cousin Killmonger. I got some more thoughts on that later. We get a clear shot of Namor's 4 Atlantean warriors on a bridge that kind of looks like the same bridge over the Potomac that Everett Ross is walking on. Maybe the Atlanteans also attack an American military site like the Pentagon, which is right along the Potomac. And that could be what leads that SEAL team to attacking the Wakandan lab for intel on the Atlanteans or their vibranium. And I like that female Atlantean has a necklace with it looks like a barracuda jawbone. Very cool. Then the shot of Riri Williams hammering away in Shuri's lab, popping out a piece of metal in the shape of an Ironheart. Ironheart, suggesting that Riri Williams' Ironheart suit might actually be made of vibranium. Then we see Michaela Coel's character named Aneka, who is a former member of the Dora Milaje who in the comics leaves and forms the Midnight Angels. Her armor includes wings that enable her to fly. Now the Midnight Angels are, among other things, known for a certain mission with Deadpool to kill Dr. Doom after Doom steals all the Wakanda Wakandan vibranium? I don't know. Victor Von Doom would be an interesting suspect behind that initial land dweller intrusion. Then a shot of Namor looking at this Mayan art. At least I think it's Mayan. This mural depicts the feathered serpent deity known as, forgive my pronunciation, Kukulkan, which is the Mayan equivalent to Quetzalcoatl of Aztec mythology. So again, the way that the Black Panther uses the deity of Bast as his divine power, serving as his avatar, the way Moon Knight served as the avatar to Khonshu. I think the same process is being used by Namor, empowered by a Mayan god.
That would be cool.
So Okoye fights the Atlanteans on that bridge that I mentioned before. Their spear strikes, pushing her back toward the water, you should note, until she plants her spear in the concrete. Then some shots of a street chase with a motorcycle and a red car, and then another shot from within that red car shows a drone plane crashing into a line of police cars. Then a close-up of Namor with a necklace of pearls, or could those be Kamoyo beads? Probably pearls, but they also kind of look like Kamoyo beads. I just really think the Atlanteans may have their own supply of vibranium, and that is why they were initially targeted. Namor or some other Atlantean descends into this throne that is encased in the jawbone of a shark. I love how the top of the jawbone has 2 rows of teeth because sharks shed their teeth. And then a Wakandan versus Atlantean sea battle. Dozens of Atlanteans surrounding a vessel.
Jeez.
And then the Dormelage leap off that deck, tethered to knock them off the side of the vessel. I love this Jack Sparrow shit. And I want to know what kind of ship this is. Why are the Wakandans venturing out in the ocean? I have a theory for why they may be setting their sails in the final section.
And when I wake up,
So who is our new Black Panther in this black and gold suit? I initially thought Shuri, since, you know, Letitia Wright has put on some muscle. But based on the silhouette, I will say it looks more like Nakia, who is the first character we see in this trailer. But at the end of the day, I could be wrong. I just do think this figure looks a bit more masculine to me. And really, the clue I'm most interested in comes from the line of Kendrick Lamar's All Right that Coogler cuts to black on.
and when I wake up,
Yes, when I wake up. If the reason Ramonda considers Shuri dead is that Shuri is in the ancestral plane, recruiting cousin Killmonger to wake him up to resurrect him, that could be how we get Killmonger back in the suit. Remember,
That's kind of what I was thinking.
In Valhalla,
actually,
afterlife alongside the ancestral plane in the Egyptian underworld in Moon Knight. And the reason we saw Jane and Heimdall again, I think, was to indicate the possibility of reincarnation or resurrection in this universe. Remember, Killmonger was buried at sea.
Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships. Because they knew death.
But yeah, it's more than likely Nakia or Shuri, but I would like for it to be...
his body. Now remember, Ramonda needed T'Challa's body to resurrect him from the ancestral plane in the 2018 film. Presumably, to resurrect Killmonger, he would need his body. That could be why they're headed out to the ocean. And in this trailer, at the very beginning, there was one shot of Shuri in which she is in this golden, hazy, out of focus realm, and she's crying. What is making her cry? Who is she seeing? Who is she reuniting with in this moment? Perhaps she could be in her ancestral underworld, waking up a warrior to help her reclaim her home. Now, so much attention has been paid to who's in the suit that some have overlooked the context of this moment. Someone out of focus is climbing back to their feet on this beach.
That definitely looks like Namor.
Now, I assume it's Namor. Looks like it's a blur of Huerta's chest, and his green jammers, golden gauntlets, and chest piece. But if this beach is Wakandan, that would mean this is pre-flood. Because if they need those floodwaters to rise enough to flood the throne room, there wouldn't be a beachfront here. So Killmonger's resurrection and conflict with Namor in this moment might actually be the thing, the moment of escalation that leads Atlantis to retaliate by flooding Wakanda, a risk that Killmonger might consider worth taking. As Doctor Strange learned in Multiverse of Madness, resurrecting the dead may seem like a quick fix, but in the grand scheme of things, it's an unholy action to unbury the dead and can curse the living with unintended consequences. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow New Rockstars.
All right.
Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything.
And I know I some people had mentioned it in there, but like, I know it's the tail end of Phase 4. It is the very last entry in Phase 4. Moon Knight opened up the ancestral planes and the connections to the multiple underworlds of or afterlives of the Marvel Universe. What if she went back to try to bring back T'Challa or whatever, but instead T'Challa suggests or maybe non-verbally or whatever, however they would do it, that Killmonger be the one after the way they ended things. Because at the end of the day, at the end of Black Panther, Killmonger was the one that was kind of right. I mean, he was right. And it was his message, his kind of mission statement that T'Challa brought back to Wakanda and opened them up to the world to give aid to all those that they've been ignoring all that time. And maybe after some time in the ancestral plane, maybe he'll have leveled out. And the other option is, obviously, this has now been dubbed the multiverse saga. What if it's a variant? The more likely answer, the more likely thing is it's probably Nakia or Shuri. It doesn't look like Shuri's build to me. It does look like it could possibly be Nakia. But like, I do agree with that with Eric that I feel like it is a little more masculine in the traditional sense. It definitely doesn't look, here's the other thing too, it definitely doesn't look as beefy as Michael B. Jordan would look in the suit, though, to me. So I think the more likely suspects are going to be Nakia or Nakia. But I think it would be cool thematically for it to end up being Killmonger or a Killmonger. But yeah, I think it'd be fun. I like what they're doing with this. I'm really curious to see what they do with Namor. He's a character I never really gravitated towards in the comics. There are a lot of those, though, to be fair. Marvel comics-wise had a lot of characters that I just never vibed with. Cap was one, Iron Man was one, Thor, Hulk, they were all characters I could never really gravitate towards in the comics, and the MCU just kind of turned them all around for me, and I'm wondering if they can pull that off with Namor as well. I like the visual aesthetic of the entire movie. I like the South American influences with the Atlanteans and the way they're kind of incorporating that in there. I do think it may be a little bit of a stretch, given what happened with, I mean, I wouldn't say stretch, but given what we got with Ms. Marvel, I think it's very likely that, you know, they'll just go the mutant route and have him in the MCU be the oldest or first mutant like he was in the comics, to explain his powers. He's both human and Atlantean, but also probably even a mutant on top of all of that, like where she's a Jinn or a Nor being a human and also a mutant. So that'd be one way to bring it back in. But if they ended up incorporating something like where he's also an avatar of maybe a South American deity, that would be an interesting way to put a spin on what we've learned through Moon Knight. There's a lot of things that are coming through these like Disney Plus shows, whether they're not directly intersecting with everything else, but they're world building the MCU in a way that's helping flesh out some ideas that Kevin Feige's wanting to explore in some of these later entries. But I'm really curious to see Letitia Wright bring it home here. I really can't wait to see what Angela Bassett's bringing to the table in this one, because she's definitely going to be taking a large and in charge role this time around. So I'm very excited to see what they do there. And yeah, and to see what they do with Namor, man. But guys, what do you think of the trailer? What do you think of the breakdown? What do you think of Eric's theories? What are your thoughts on who's in the suit? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Feel free to join us in our Discord. We can talk about it there as well. Links to that in all my social description box below. Before we go, I want to shout out our channel edges. Manny Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yori Corey Scott, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Melita, Robert Anguiano, Cal Kestis Nation, and Raven McCann. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. And that's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.